Well, remember when I said I might stop at that point with that bearings being bad on that pulley? I decided that since I'm this far, I'd take those 3 bolts off and this head will come off. So that's what I did. And there's 3 bolts under here. There's 2 in the front, 1 in the back. And then this whole head will loosen. It'll rotate. And then you just lift it off. So if you drop your quill, you don't have to go as high to get it off. But it's still heavy. It took 2 people. It wasn't the fact that I couldn't lift it up and get it off. It's just that once I got it up, I couldn't hang on to it, trying to balance myself on this lift cart I have. So it went relatively quick, and it was easy. So I thought, well, at least I'll check the bearings in the other one. I really don't want to take it apart, but I thought, well, maybe I can spin it and see if I can hear anything. So that's what looks inside. It's the gear for the feed. It engages and disengages. Anyway, here's the head. Now I got some paper towels in here because there was a lot of oil in here. There's a see that hole right there? That thing was like filled up with oil. And like I keep putting oil in the machine, and this oil cup over here, inside here there's a plastic tube that goes from this hole to that hole. There's a plastic tube that goes from here to there, and it's not secured by anything. It's just sitting in that hole by itself. So when you put oil in the cup, it leaks out around this fitting because the plastic tube is not sealed, and I guess some of it goes through the tube down here through this hole, and the rest of it just spills here, and that's what's filling this that cavity up. Now, in order to take this apart and clean it, I'm going to have to take these screws out. Well, in order to get this is some kind of cover plate. And this gear doesn't look bad at all. It looks good, pretty good. You know, when you got this thing in neutral and you're spinning it, not this one because you can't put it in neutral, but like the Bridgeports, you put them in neutral and you spin them like you're checking something, or with the indicator or whatever, and then you forget to
put it back in gear and then you turn it on, it makes that noise. That's what's going on here, is this gear and the other gear that's on the pulley aren't engaged, they aren't meshed, and they're just riding on top of each other, and that's what you hear, is this gear hitting that gear, spinning around. But anyway, yeah, this one looks pretty good. And here's the pulley. And this piece here is what engages the pulley and disengages the pulley. Now when I push that down, it disengages this from this. Now the thing is that, you see that nut, I got to take that nut off to get this pulley off, to get this plate off. And they got, you know, they couldn't use a regular nut, you know, they had to use one of these things. So now I gotta make something to take that off. I'll probably take a socket and grind the corners off so it'll fit in there, and then of course it's right in the way of where the extension would be, so I have to put a universal joint in there and try to get that off of there. But usually they're not torqued on real hard because they're you know, it's got a key in it. But right there. Now yesterday I had this thing on its side, and I disengaged this pulley from that pulley, and I was able to spin this, and it sounded pretty good. I really don't want to have to take that one apart. And I didn't hear any unusual noises. Of course, I'll check it again. You know, I'll take this cover off and check it again. But, I mean, it's sounding pretty good, and I mostly just want to take this cover off and clean anything that's down here. I can see there's a lot of dirt in here. Even just taking the screwdriver, you know, I can... A lot of, well, it's from the belt, you know, the belt wearing over a period of time. You know, it's throwing off little particles, and then the oil that's leaking in here, and it's making like a little slurry kind of mess going on. And, you know, I'll clean it up the best I can, and clean out this oil over here. I mean, maybe that drips down into something else, I don't know, but I mean, I've always had things where the spindle was dripping oil. In fact, you can see where oil's constantly dripping off of this gear, which I guess that's the way it's designed, because it lubricates that gear, and it's constantly dripping oil. But I think, you know, I'm gonna, you know, go ahead and clean it, so at least it's clean. But yeah, it wasn't too bad. Like I said, to take those 3 bolts off, and this thing comes right off. Yeah, the Bridgeport has a snap ring on the bottom of this thing, and this one has a plate. I noticed that on the drawing. I'll show you the drawing. But yeah, I gotta work on this a little bit, get it cleaned up. But anyway, that's what it looks like. It had a ring on here that held that belt in place, and you take these screws off and take the ring off, and then you could take the belt off, which was this one, the big one. But I'm, you know, when I got this machine, and I put this belt on, because the other belt was tight. In fact, I got the belt over there by the switch, the original belt, and it was tight. And I wonder if that's what's caused those bearings to go out, because they had the belt, I mean, it was tight even before you tightened it. I really don't know the story, because I don't know what happened to this machine after they bought it. I understand there was a guy bought this machine. He was some kind of engineer, and he was trying to develop this product, and he hired a couple of people or somebody to work for him, and the product never materialized. And when I got the machine, there were quite a few broken end mills, and the slop in this handle was severe. It was almost a half a turn. In fact, I told the guy when I first looked at the machine that I didn't want it. I wasn't interested, because I knew something was seriously wrong with it. And the guy come back later and says, "Make me an offer." And I says, "Well, I looked it up, and the lead screw was like $1,000. I figured the lead screw, something to do with the lead screw." And so I said, "Well, if you knock $1,000 off of it, I'll buy it." And he said, "Sold." And come to find out that after talking to him, like I was the last one to look at it, and he had a lot of people look at it, and he says, "I got to sell this no matter what." So anyway, I found out that the adjustment on the gib, the gib was a little bit off, and there's a screw that closes and tightens the nut, and the bolt had broken off. So I replaced the bolt, and I got the nut tight again, so when you turn it, it's tight, at least, you know, within tolerance. So I told the guy, I says, "Hey, you know, I didn't have to replace the lead screw, but I had to do this and I had to do that." So I gave him $500 back. And he was happy about that. I was happy. So anyway, that's the story on this machine. I mean, it wasn't in a factory or nothing, or in a place where you know, they work on stuff. So I knew it didn't have a lot of hours on it, but I don't know the ability of the people who were using it before, how qualified they were to run it. But it doesn't look that bad. I mean, it looks really good for over 20 years old. And I still don't remember if I replaced the brakes. I'm kind of thinking maybe I didn't now, because I got this box of parts over here, and every time I change a part, I always put it in there. But I know I changed that switch, and I don't see that switch in there, so maybe I did get rid of the old switch, and maybe the old brakes, or maybe they're just somewhere else. I got a lot of stuff here. I got like a lot of stuff. I got a lot of stuff. That's what happens when you stay in one place too long. You collect a lot of stuff. But anyway, we're gonna clean this up, and I'm gonna have to, like I said, take a socket and make it fit that nut, so I can get that nut off, get that plate off, and clean it up a little bit, and hopefully be in good shape. And get some parts and put it back together. But I don't see too many of these on YouTube, so I wanted to show you what this thing looks like, because the Grizzly is exactly like it, and of course there's a lot of these Encos out there. Alright, I'll get back with you later.